Five, four, three.
Thank you so much for being here with us today. Would you kindly start by introducing yourself and telling us just a bit?
Okay, thank you very much for the invitation. My name is Patricia Kombo. I am a UNCCD land hero and I am an environmental champion. I call myself a land advocate. I run a community-based organization called PaTree Initiative that was formed in 2019 after visiting Lodwar, the driest part of Kenya. And from staying with the community for 2 weeks, I saw how drought, how climate change was impacting majorly women and children, and that's how PaTree Initiative was formed. First, to give voice and hope to the young generation, and second, to create a generation of environmental citizens, or rather young champions who understand what is climate change, what is their responsibility, and what is their right, or rather what they need to do to ensure they live in a better and in a sustainable environment.
Thank you very much. Now, why is Kenya in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia today?
Thank you very much. The reason why we are here, and I speak as a young person and also representing my country, we are here because we support what the convention is doing. Because if you look at our country, around 70% of our land is in the ASAL regions, and also because of climate change, droughts, they are becoming more frequent, eating communities, livelihoods, threatening livelihoods, and also impacting on our economies. So our voice is very strong. We want to support, we want to, to advocate for what we feel will impact our country positively, and also to follow on the processes, and also to share some of success stories, what we're doing as a country, and how we need the convention and other parties to come together, because addressing or rather combating land degradation and desertification, it calls for a unified, a strong ambition. When we come together, we're able to address some of these key issues.
Now, I saw you with the Environment CS Aden Duale the other day. What is our ask at this COP16?
Okay, our key ask, or rather our key demand, or rather I don't know what to put it, is we are pushing for a drought protocol and also for a drought fund, because if you look at how drought-related impacts have been more frequent in our country, and we are aligning with the African group, following some of the key deliberations that were adopted during AMSEN. We felt as a continent that is facing a lot of drought, we need a drought protocol that will help us fast track, help us in monitoring, help us in building resilience for the communities, help in ensuring there is technology and capacity transfer. So our key main ask is on the drought protocol for the parties to agree and to adopt, or rather for the convention to ensure we have a drought protocol, and also the drought fund, because if you look at other conventions, there are so many funds that have been put in different ways to address key issues like in climate change, in biodiversity, in wetlands. So we feel it's high time that we have a fund for the drought, because drought is becoming more frequent. And even at the moment, nations or other continents that felt drought was not their thing, at the moment they are facing, or rather they are at a verge of experiencing some of this. And currently now drought is a bigger crisis that needs a lot of resources put together in terms of research, in terms of monitoring, in technology transfer, monitoring, early warning system, and all these need a lot of resources. And also in restoration. Restoration is not cheap. It needs a lot of resources. So to ensure we combat and also we heal some of the degraded landscapes.
Interesting. Now, according to the United Nations Framework for Climate Change, a new report states that we need 2.4 trillion per year as a continent and developed countries at large. Now, I'm left wondering, the 1.3 trillion climate finance goal at COP29 in Baku just a few days ago, literally, was a disaster.
Yeah.
We walked out of there with basically an empty bucket. with promises of 300 billion that no one wants to commit to giving us that money. Is this realistic? Where are we going to get the money to combat desertification alone if the 1.3 trillion brought a lot of storm, if I may say?
But if I would like to just say, you know, these are 3 conventions, and each convention has its ways of operation, has its mechanism. And also, if you look at the parties, at the COP, the parties are large. And also, if you look at the agenda for the climate change, is basically on the emissions, these big polluters. But if you come to the drought, the parties, drought is not, as much as to some extent is human induced because of our sustainable land use practice and also because of the climate change. Drought is a threat, and no country can say they are prone, or rather they, you know, we can't get drought. So I feel for the drought protocol, it's a thin line here in Riyadh, because I attended some meetings, and for some parties they feel we do not need a protocol, whereas some countries feel we need a protocol. And also looking at restoration, we are borrowing from success stories of how restoration has worked. And using these success stories, I am certain that parties will be able to, you know, to pledge, or rather to support, like the Saudi Green Initiative. We have the Great Green Wall. We have the Chagwan Initiative. Some of these restoration are acting as success stories. They're acting as mapping ground for parties to see how restoration has worked and how restoration is transforming the livelihoods of these communities in terms of migration, gender-related issues, economies, youth empowerment. So I feel as we are here in Riyadh, our key goal is to ensure, or rather to plead, or to, you know, to hope that some of these parties will see the need of us having a drought protocol. And it's first time the drought protocol is, you know, it's coming, or rather is being an ask. So I'm hoping that we'll get the finances. If not all the finances, we all need a stepping ground. This is the beginning. No matter the money that will be raised, it will be a stepping ground for countries to pool resources. And if I can just make a reference, drought-related and restoration in the past has not been funded because countries did not see the urgency. And that's, you see, the Convention on Climate Change is big, is massive, as compared to the two Rio Convention. And for the first time, the convention, the CCD, has put a lot of emphasis, has shown the interlinkage between the 3 conventions, the three, you know, key issues in addressing and also combating, because if you halt land degradation, you will be winning for the climate change. It will also be a win for the biodiversity and vice versa. So I feel, I'm confident that from the success stories that we have seen from restoration, something positive will come.
Now, as a negotiator, as one of the top Kenyan climate negotiators, what are the gives and takes in those rooms? Because for me, a COP is not what is happening in the press briefings. A COP is what happens at night when people are sleeping, the deals that are made, in the restaurants, in the bars and other places where top people frequent and behind closed doors. What are the sticky points in those negotiation rooms? Are we going to have a convergence of texts, brackets, commas, and full stops? Are people going to fight about that?
Okay, so I'm speaking as a land negotiator following these processes, and I can say it's very interesting. In the past conferences, I was not keen, but at Riyadh, I'm very, very deliberate. I'm attending the meetings. I'm very deliberate on listening to the clause, to the comma, to the full stop, to the shall, will, should. These are some of the keywords that if you're making a reference in English, you'll just think they mean the same. But if you attend the negotiation, you'll realize shall and should. One is weak, the other one is like, yeah. So there's these terms, a comma, a phrase, a full stop, they literally mean, different in the context that you know. But I can say it's It's a nice listening to this conversation and also listening to negotiation and also understanding countries' perspectives and where they're coming from. Like I happen to listen just on the side shows on land tenure. And as for my country, I know we've made a lot of advancement, matters related to gender, land tenure, women's rights. But for some parties, you'll find, based on their culture, based on where they come from, based on how things are done, restoration, who plays the key role in the farms and the restoration, you find there is a thin line and the language becomes more and more interesting. So I'm following, I'm so keen, I'm learning the terms that I should use, the terms that I need to avoid, and also the terms that I feel if this term you make reference to, it is going to advance them, the negotiations. And also I want to thank the African group of negotiators, like the Africa. I like how Africa has a unified voice, and they're making reference, and it's like we are supporting our African continent because Africa is a youthful continent, and we depend on land. A lot of majorly our GDP is from the land, and also if you look at the key value chains in the land sector, is related to land, and also our everything depends on the land. And also culturally, land is the only thing that young generation inherit. So I find the voice of Africa very firm, very deliberate, very intentional, and also advocating for things that I feel as a young person. If we have a drought protocol, if we have a fund on drought, it's a win for us young generation because at least we will have a starting point in restoration, in combating drought, in leading, and also in scaling up some of our local initiatives.
Now, as a negotiator, you always have to be wary of the geopolitical temperatures. And just before COP29, Donald Trump was voted in as the next president of the United States of America. And he's openly said that to him, climate change is a hoax.
Yeah.
And in fact, there's talks of him pulling the US out of the Paris Agreement.
Again.
Now, how does this affect what we are trying to achieve here, considering we know countries always align when it comes to interests? I have been in negotiation rooms as a reporter where I see countries that never agree on things. You'll find them agreeing on things. We are in a country that is Saudi Arabia, a kingdom that is very friendly and makes billions of dollars from the production of polymers. Polymers are children, if I may say so, of fossil fuels.
Yes.
And in turn, that affects soil health.
Yes.
And they are the same people hosting a conversation about soil health. So from a negotiator's perspective, how honest are we with the deliberations that are happening?
First of all, I want to say we are honest because this is the first time this convention, or rather this conference, is happening in Middle East. And it's not by chance, it's happening in a continent, in a country that is rich, or rather supports, or rather it's heavily on the fuel. But looking at the drought impacts, as much as they are winning from the oil, the drought impact and the desertification, it's of great concern to them. And that's why I went through the Saudi Green Initiative, I went to the UNESCO Center, and I see how they are very intentional in restoring what they feel they have degraded. They have a lot of innovation because for the longest time, this has been their source of income. But now they have come to a realization. We are actually, wasting our land. We are degrading our ecosystem. We are polluting more, and it's about now going back. And there's something that was said by the president of COP29 in Baku. And sometimes I tend to think these negotiations sometimes are very tricky because he said oil and gas is a gift from God. And so should we not use the natural resources that God gave us? And it's a question of how sustainable are you using them? How are you ensuring the polluters pay? How are you protecting the environment? How are you protecting livelihoods? How are you ensuring that after you mine, you ensure you restore where you've done? How are you ensuring you use technology that is eco-friendly? And I was so much impressed when I saw the geoparks. This is technology has been used to ensure you have a virtual park at your home without having to go to these either protected areas, these already degraded landscapes. And it's the technology. What are you doing to ensure the harm that you've done, you're compensating? And you cannot say you need to stop. You need to stop doing this. It's gradual change, gradual restoration, gradual, coming together.
And if I may interject, that is where I have a problem with, because from where I sit, it feels like oil-rich countries, the global north, they've taken some of these things as they factor them as a cost of doing business. Look at carbon credits, for example. Yeah. People will continue polluting, releasing emissions, and we give them a license to pollute. We are calling carbon credits. For me, I regard them as pollution permits of some sort. And they will factor in in fact, they will produce double or triple, knowing that, I need to,
they will pay.
to pay a small fee. Regardless of how I do it. So it makes me wonder, are we really solving the climate crisis, or we are just creating this amorphous animal that is just eating itself up day by day? Which would explain to me also why we are now having COPs in oil-producing countries. Would you explain to me?
I think that one is a complex, and the decision for the countries to host. But also I think the reason why they are happening this is for them to, it's like an eye-opener. This is the reality. You're benefiting from the oil, but at the same time, you're polluting, because I think it's more of like creating awareness. And also I know the issue of greenwashing, and we saw in Busan how the plastic treaty just flopped. I think it's more of a diplomacy-related issue, whereby as young people, as negotiators, young negotiators in the space, we're trying to maneuver, we're trying to understand all these geopolitics, all these diplomacy-related issues. But of importance is for countries, or rather for like the Middle East, where they are hosting the conference for the first time, is for them to first of all realize what they are doing, its impact, and also to learn some of the sustainable ways of ensuring that whatever they are doing, if it's their mining, if it's doing this, they have the sustainability model. What is their sustainable ways? How are they going to ensure they do restoration? And also create more awareness on this, on the drought issue, which I feel it's major. It's one of the greatest threats that we are currently facing as it's not a continent, it's a global, because we saw in Spain there was massive drought, then floods. Even in US, we saw how climate change is actually impacting. So I think it's more of creating awareness that these are interlinked crises that need a multi-faced approaches in combating and also in addressing them.
Now, as we wind up,
Yeah.
I want you to talk to that young girl, that young mother in Kajiado in Kenya, where sex for water is still happening because of the climate crisis. What are they taking away from this COP in Saudi Arabia?
I saw the video, and that's why gender, migration are some of key thematic areas for this COP. And parties are trying to see how do we create this nexus, this connectivity, in ensuring that the approaches that we take actually benefit communities. And for that young girl, for that innocent child born today, and their future is not certain because of the climate crisis, human-induced migration, droughts, desertification. What I can tell them, it's like, with the current generation, we've realized the menace and the problem that the older generation have caused. And that's why we as young people, we have said enough of being invited as a tick box. And that's why I am here as a young person, as a negotiator, because I want to sit, I want to listen, I want to be at the decision making. I want the voice of the future generation heard. I want, when they are crafting the country statement, the national statement, the voice of young people is included, because we feel our future is at stake. We feel if we leave the older generation to continue making policies, sometimes their policies will be more aligned on their needs. They will not factor the needs of young people. Things have changed. We are moving into a more IT, AI world. We need the voice, we need the innovation of young people. And what I can then tell them, enough of the older policies. It's now the time that we are pushing for meaningful policies that are inclusive, that are youth and future friendly, that promote future generations. So they should keep faith. They should keep on pushing, knowing that the young generation have realized we need to occupy these spaces, we need to influence decision, we need to articulate what you're doing. And another thing, it's on promoting locally initiatives. Whatever you're doing, whatever is available, I always tell people, use whatever is within your means to ensure, number one, you build your own resilience. As we wait for the government, you need to build your own resilience. You need to survive. You need to be alive. So if it's that compound, if it's that broken basin, grow 4 tomatoes. Grow 4 veggies. The water that you finished washing your utensils, put it there. Grow your food. Build your own resilience. And second is on the curriculum. I'm so happy that the government of Kenya saw it fit to shift from 844 to competency-based, because with the competency-based, the young generation are learning skills that they can use, they can build their own resilience. They are being taught about agriculture, they are being taught about life skills, they are being taught about confidence, something that when I was young, I was not confident enough to say, stop doing this. But the current generation, they will tell you, I know my rights. This is bad. They are very confident. So I'm so happy because of the initiatives like the new curriculum, because it's giving the young population a voice.
Gen Zs.
The skills, even to be smart, to think. And secondly, on the convention, initially the convention did not have a mechanisms in the past for youth engagement. And at the current, we have what we call the UNCCD Youth Caucus. This is the official engagement where the convention engages with the youth. And I'm so happy because one of the top leadership is from Uganda. So we feel the voice of the African continent is well articulated. We have the UNCCD Land Heroes, whereby they honor young people doing amazing work in restoration, in promoting these best practices. This is also a mechanism, or rather a way whereby young people can showcase what they are doing at local level. They get this recognition, they get support. And finally, we have the newest baby, the Land Youth Negotiators program, whereby the convention is very deliberate, it's very intentional to have the voice of young people in the negotiation rooms. In the past, you saw it was countries used to send their delegation, the older people. But if you look around, you'll see a lot of young people representing their countries. You'll see the young negotiators who have been trained for 6 months. They had an in-person training in Riyadh. They understand the convention better. They understand what the countries are doing, all this. And through these are avenues whereby we feel we as young people, we are included, we are able to influence policy, and also at the country level. Currently, we are doing that generation of NDC, and we've had already 2 engagements of youth, whereby youth are brought together. They give what they think needs to be put in NDC. So I feel the future of that young girl, boy born today, your future is very safe with the current generation, because we are not giving space for the older generation to make decisions for us. We are part of the decisions.
Now, my final question, let's talk about money, because everyone loves money.
Of course.
Yeah, and the reason why everyone is here is because of money. At the end of the day, it narrows down to money. And yesterday I had a very interesting conversation with the European Union Bank Vice President. And she told me that they have an ambitious goal of making available 1.3 trillion US dollars, but by the end of 2030. That is their goal as the private sector. Very much understandable, it's within their right.
Yes.
But my question is, if at all a miracle happened and we were given the 2.4 trillion today, do we know what to do with that money? Do we have a framework of how we are going to spend it, or how we are going to ensure it trickles down to the common mwananchi who's grappling with the land issues amidst a climate crisis? Because accountability questions come in.
Yes.
And when it comes to accountability questions, government starts frowning. I asked the Kenyan government to explain to me what happened to the 4.3 billion shillings we made during the Africa Climate Summit. No one was willing to do so. So if we cannot be trusted with the small things, why should we be trusted with the bigger ones? As a negotiator, tell me.
Okay, I will not make reference to the country, but as a negotiator, what I feel, if you empower community, if you bring the civil society, if you bring the youth on the table, the aspects of accountability will be critical, because if we understand better, we have the awareness that this is the amount of money. And one thing that I say, even as we go to the finance, we need a lot of capacity building and a lot of awareness to these communities. They need to know what kind of project they are doing, the transparency, how do they vote the leaders. And I can say with the county government, the devolution government in Kenya, it's working, because we have the community forest committees whereby you elect and nominate the person you need to lead. And they are trained and they understand a certain project is coming, it's this amount of money. And because they have this awareness and they understand better, in some they request for the bill of quantities, like the terms of reference. And if they are well aware, they have the capacity building, I am 100% sure they will ask questions. And again, it's a matter of asking the tough questions that people are not comfortable. If you know a certain project is coming to your place and you know the amount, please just follow through. Ensure every coin, every asset is done so that it can benefit the community, because all this restoration, all these projects are geared towards, the community. And it's about moral responsibility. We are fighting for a better environment. If you steal from the environment, it's like you're stealing from your health. It's like when you're sick and you're given medicine and you steal your medicine and you throw them. You won't get healed. So it's about moral responsibility. It's about our personal accountability. It's about looking at the end goal vision. I know investments in land-related issues, people do not want to go because they do not have like instant return on investment. And that's why you find a lot of people will want to be corrupt to divert. But if you look at the long term, if you look at the long run impact, at least you will ensure that this project follows its due course, and to ensure that everything has been done as it is indicated. Because at the end of it all, we are looking for greener jobs, we're looking for green opportunities, we are looking for a sustainable future.
Thank you very much for having a conversation with us. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Asante.
Bye. Unaweza mambo ya COP29, climate change, it's a terrible